Warning. Pregnant women, the elderly, and children under 16 should avoid prolonged exposure to Dirt Diggler. Dirt Diggler may suddenly accelerate to dangerous speeds. Dirt Diggler has high gluten content and is not kosher, halal, or vegan safe. Do not ingest Dirt Diggler, as Dirt Diggler is for external use only. Discontinue listening to Dirt Diggler if any of the following occurs: itching, vertigo, dizziness, discoloration of urine, tingling in extremities, loss of balance or coordination, slurred speech, temporary blindness, profuse sweating, heart palpitations, increased use of profanity. If listening to Dirt Diggler gives you an erection lasting longer than 4 hours, you're welcome. Listening to Dirt Diggler may lead to unplanned pregnancies. If Dirt Diggler begins to smoke, get away immediately. Seek shelter and cover head. Dirt Diggler may stick to certain types of skin. When not in use, Dirt Diggler should be returned to a special container and kept under refrigeration. The ingredients of Dirt Diggler include, but are not limited to, a glowing substance which fell to the earth, presumably from outer space, and bad memories. Do not taunt Dirt Diggler. Dirt Diggler does not come with a lifetime guarantee. Dirt Diggler, enjoy the show.
Yo, what is good? It is Dirt Diggler Shitty Sports Show.
That's right,
Look, this ain't your
bitches.
daddy's
Right,
podcast because I'm not your daddy, but I might be your uncle. I'm Dirt Diggler, the dirtiest Diggler to ever Diggler, if a dirt could Diggler. And I'm coming through with on a Friday night for y'all because the games are going to be coming on tomorrow. We got the playoffs starting tomorrow in the NFL, right? Playoffs, we're going to go over all those things. But first things first, what y'all think about that new music, right? Got RTO Beats. He laid it down with some new intro music for me, and I'm rather excited about this music. I think it's perfect for the show. But you know what? I mean, y'all let me know what you think. You know, y'all let me know what you think, and I'll let them know. I mean, I for one think it's good music. I think it's great. So shout out to RTO Beats as always. You know, he does all my music. He does a great job. So look him up on SoundCloud or Mixcloud or whatever. Go ahead and, you know, if you got someone doing music, go ahead and get the music from him. He'll hook you up, man. He does really good work, and you know, I'm proud to be able to have access to someone like that, man. It's always nice to have talented folks that are helping you out when you're trying to do something. It is nice. So, all right, getting into this week's action. All right, so we're going to go over what happened for the last week of the regular season, week 17. We're going to go over how I was like Negrodamus with last week's predictions. We're going to go over the Eagles have to look forward to in the offseason, right? And maybe hash out some new/old information like it's new to me, but apparently this is old hat. You know, we'll figure that out. We'll go over that real quick. The folks who haven't won the division. There's some teams that have never, ever won their division since the reorg. We're going to go over those teams, identify them, and talk a little shit about them. That's what we do here. We're going to go over the wild card week predictions because, like I said, hey, playoffs start, man. Win or go home. Win or go home. It starts. The March to the Championship starts tomorrow. We're going to go over the beer of the week and, of course, the obligatory hot take of the week. So, man, look. Like I said, RTO Beats came through and he nailed it to the wall, set it on fire with that beat, with that music. I think it's fantastic, and I'm looking forward. Look, I'm tell you what, man. As this show goes on, it's exciting because he's been so helpful in making all the making music for us, making music for me. He's just been great. He's been great. He's been on time. He's been perfect, man. I'm telling you. Go ahead and hit the dude up. But let's get into week 17, right? So my uneducated predictions last week. 13-3. Hell yeah.
What we thought
like
they were.
13-3, for real. Like, which I got on that shit. That brings no shit. Like, for the season, for the games that I called, because you got to remember I got sick, so I didn't call all the games for all the weeks. And there was some games that I totally fucking missed. So that brings my total for the year up to 97, 58, and 2, right? So I went online. I was like, so how do I calculate winning percentage and account for ties? Because I suck at math sometimes. And what the little calculator told me was that I'm sitting about 62%, which isn't bad. Now, I imagine those idiots on Fox or NFL Network or wherever, they're not sitting at something as substantial as 62%, let alone having one of those dudes go 13-3, you know, for a week. And I didn't just call, you know, I didn't just call the outcomes. I called, like, the scores were almost spot on. I even called how the games are going to unfold. You know, I even called how the games are going to unfold. I called the choke.
But they are.
But we're gonna get into we're gonna get into how I knelt this shit down and all the spectacular details related to that later on in the show. All right, but moving on, let's get into the games. Let's get into the games because, like I said, this was the last regular season game for the 2016 season, and it was the last game period for some folks. And Steve Smith Sr. was one of those folks, right? So you would expect, knowing that he's going to retire, that the Ravens would show some life and go out there and maybe win a fucking game for their dude, but they didn't. They let him down in Cincinnati, and they let him go into his retirement with some inexplicable loss. I mean, come on, dude, he's a Hall of Famer. This is not even one of those things like, well, Steve Smith, he might make it to Canton. Dude, Steve Smith is going to Canton. All right, he's going to Canton, and everyone knows it, but the Ravens should have showed up and won that game against the Bengals. The Bengals are a goddamn mess, but it is what it is. And, Steve Smith already sent his retirement letter to the NFL. And if you haven't seen his retirement letter, let me tell you, it is a thing of beauty. He was like, Commissioner Goodell, I will no longer antagonize defensive backs in the NFL. I am retiring. It was like 2 lines. It was beautiful. It was short. It was sweet. It was simple. It was Steve Smith. It was Steve Smith. I mean, look, if I was in his position, I think that's the only way to go out. The only way to let the NFL know that you're done is to say, hey, I'm done antagonizing defensive backs, because he antagonized the shit out of defensive backs, linebackers. It didn't matter. It didn't matter for his whole career. I mean, that's what made him lovable. I talk about him all the time. Steve Smith is a fucking gamer, and I mean, you don't come across folks that play like him all the time. Not at that position. You have like him and Larry Fitzgerald and like Hines Ward, that were like truly physical monsters. Terrell Owens, that were physical beasts that would just jack you up. Steroided David Boston, for those who remember him. He was on roids though, so I don't think he counts. But, you got shit like that. So, I think the Ravens should have definitely showed some life and set them off on the right foot. A loss is not the way you retire a Hall of Famer like him, but it is what it is. I mean, I think even Barry Sanders lost his last game. I mean, shit. But moving on to the Titans and Texans. So, the Titans beat the Texans, who had to play Bork Osweiler, who threw for a uncharacteristic 253 yards. So let's be real. The guy who I believed was contractually obligated to throw below 200 yards a game actually broke that for 253 yards. So what I'm thinking is that for every game you sit him, he accumulates yardage for the next game, right? So if you sit him for the next season, he might throw for 1,000 yards in one game, but just know that after that, he's going to go right back to not throwing for 200. Osweiler's a weird case, man. He's like 6'8", and he's a giant fucking piece of shit. He doesn't know what he's doing. He sucks, but he managed to throw for 253 against a division rival in a loss. So maybe the key to the Texans winning is for him to not throw for 200 yards. Maybe that is what it is. Maybe if he throws in excess of 200 yards, they lose, and that's what you got. Either way, not looking good for him. He only started because Savage was hurt. Right, he only started because Savage was hurt, and yet the team still lost to the Titans, who are without Mariota. So, moving on to the Bucs-Panthers game, the Bucs, they beat the Panthers and still missed the playoffs. All right, so listen, the Bucs are next year for them, right? Because the NFC South is a rather interesting division. Sometimes the Falcons show up, sometimes they don't. This year they showed up, but really, that division is for anyone to take. Anyone can take that division. If the Saints manage to fucking do some noteworthy drafting and bolster that defense, they can take the division next year on old ass Drew Brees' arm. You know what I'm saying? The Falcons are one Matt Ryan or Julio Jones injury away from being fucking irrelevant. And Jameis Winston is putting up some pretty damn good numbers considering how long this is the end of his second year. He's done pretty well. I fuck with him because he had the incidents in college where he was just terrible with how he's behaving, and yes, he I'm not gonna lie, look, the dude probably committed some fucking felonies while he was in school, and it's inexcusable. He's probably a really terrible person, but he's pretty good quarterback. I have to give him that. But yeah, look, they're gonna be in the mix of things next year. I don't know about the Panthers though, because the Panthers have so many things to fix. Like, everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Panthers this year. Their offensive line is in shambles. Their defense is in shambles. Like, two of the things that got them to the Super Bowl last year, they're all fucked up. So I don't know. The Panthers, unless they pull a miracle out of their ass, I see them being at the bottom of the NFC South next year. But so we'll go over all this shit in depth as we get into the offseason, after the playoffs and blah, blah, blah. But this will be the last you hear me talk about the Panthers until I got to talk about the Panthers for real. The Colts beat the Jaguars, and everyone loses because it's an AFC South game, so there's no winners there. That's the moral of the story. The moral of the story is don't be part of the AFC South. The Pats absolutely shellacked, murdered, death killed the Dolphins because the Pats own the AFC East and they are an elite team, and the Dolphins are a feel-good story about going into the playoffs. But let's be real, no one's waiting on the Dolphins to do shit. The Dolphins are not going to be like knocking down the playoffs. They're a first-round casualty, and that's it. But it's great that they made it, and they made it without the starting quarterback, who's done for the season. So what happened to them against the Patriots is what's going to happen to them again if they manage to make it to play the Patriots. The Vikings beat the Bears, and I don't care. The Bills managed to out-Jets the Jets at the Met and gifted that dumpster fire franchise a win they did not deserve. But, man, let me tell you what. When the wheels fall off in Buffalo, they fall all the fucking way off. All the way off in Buffalo. The Eagles beat the Cowboys at home in a game where there was not only a Tony Romo sighting, but a Mark Butt Fumble Sanchez sighting as well. And let me tell you, Sanchez proved to be by far the inferior quarterback out of that group. Like, there's 3 quarterbacks in Dallas. One is Dak Prescott, one is Tony Romo, and the other one is Mark Sanchez. And you can kind of change out Dak and Romo depending on what you're trying to do. Dak has proven to be, competent and he's able to make some things happen, and Romo's been doing it for years, but fucking Sanchez seems to get worse every year. I don't think I've seen him improve from one year to the next at all. Then again, this goes back to my whole thing about USC. USC produces shitty football players. Nelson Aguilar is a USC graduate. He fucking sucks, right? The last USC graduate of note is Troy Polamalu. When did he retire? Like, when did he stop being good is my next question. But Troy Polamalu was the game changer for the Steelers, right? But he's the last graduate out of USC, the last football player that USC has going to the draft into the NFL that has done anything. He's the last one. You got, all the quarterbacks are shit, right? Carson Palmer, Matt Leinart, Matt Barkley, Sanchez, they're all garbage. And whoever they come out this year is going to be trash because I don't know what it is about Southern Cal. They make them soft and weak down there, I guess. I guess it helps if you have some snow. You know what I'm saying? Or if you're playing it. Actually, does it outside of Cam Newton, has the SEC produced any noteworthy quarterbacks either? Or do all good quarterbacks come out of the Big Ten? I don't know. I'm just asking. Just somebody let me know. Email me. Fuck it. Email me. Fight me. Whatever. Man, but yeah, Sanchez is terrible. So the Steelers beat the Browns in overtime. Landry fucking Jones had the day that I predicted, and I laugh because he had the day that I predicted. He threw for 277 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Landry Jones is terrible. The problem with Landry Jones winning is that now Landry Jones plants a seed of doubt in the Steelers organization if they really want to get rid of Landry Jones. But let's be real. If you've ever watched Landry fucking Jones play in any other situation, you understand that Landry fucking Jones used to go. But since Landry fucking Jones went out and had a great game, now maybe there's an advocate in the organization that says maybe we should hold on to Landry fucking Jones. I say you should ignore him, but I'm not in those meetings. I'm here behind a mic in my fucking basement doing podcasts, so I don't get to influence shit. But Landry fucking Jones had a great day, which is a detriment to the Steelers, and a win in overtime against the Browns. So good thing they didn't cough up that second win, though. That would have been embarrassing. That would have been awkward. The Falcons beat the Saints, and the score was goddamn outrageous because neither team understand the concept of defense. And I predicted that as well. I predicted an outlandish score between those two teams because they can put up a ton of points. Like Madden 2004 point totals is what's happening right now between those two teams. And it happened last time they played. The Saints are very good at scoring points. They just can't stop nobody else. And apparently the Falcons are even better at scoring points, but they also can't stop anybody else. Now, I don't know how that's going to fit in the playoffs, but I think they'll get out of. Maybe they'll win their first game. They're the number 2 seed in the NFC, so maybe they'll win their first game. We don't have to predict that game because they won't play it until next week. That's the luxury of not sucking ass throughout the regular season. You get to wait and watch the wild card weekend happen from the privacy of your own home and not have to participate, and then you get to play during the divisional round. The Pigskins choked away their playoff hopes at home against the Giants just as I expected them to. Oh, my God. Kirk Cousins threw 2 interceptions, one of which was the backbreaker, both, I believe, to Dominique Rogers-Cromartie, and they were ill-advised. They were like, oh, I'm being pass rush off the back foot, bad throw, interception, game over. Holy shit. Look, I told you that the Pigskins weren't going to get blown out. I told you that it's not their style to lose before the season's truly over. They have to lose in the most dramatic fashion possible. And what better way, what is more dramatic than losing to a division rival who has nothing to gain from winning at home with your franchise quarterback who's tagged, who needs a new contract. Everything that could be a mess is a mess right now, and it's delightful. As a non-Pigskin fan, this is delightful. This is what you hope for when you watch them play. You hope for these collapses that put him in a position, because here's the thing, right? They're gonna have to pay him because there's literally no one else that they can sign. Like, he's their best chance, but he's Tony Romo light. Like, Kirk Cousins is Tony Romo light. You can't have a bad day when, like, your whole season's on the line, and that's what he did. So he's Tony Romo light. That's who he is. Great regular season. His numbers are fantastic until week 17, in which case they really needed him to do something great, and he didn't. Hence, he's Tony Romo light. So, splendid. The Cardinals scored 44 points, and the Rams scored 6. And I apologize to everyone who had to watch that game that was not a Cardinals fan, because that shit is inexcusable. That's that shit when that really good high school that wins state every year plays your dumpster fire high school. That's the kind of shit that happens, and maybe you get 6. But that's fucking inexcusable at this level. So ill. And the Raiders started Connor Cook. Now, Connor Cook was apparently the kid that no one liked at all, like, out of the draft. I don't mean like they didn't think he was talented. No, but here's the thing. They did not think he was talented, but they also said that his teammates absolutely fucking hate him. Like, he's a dick. He's an entitled dick of a human being. And he's the third-string quarterback for the Raiders. And he threw for like 150 yards in a loss to the Broncos, which cost the Raiders the AFC West title and the number 2 seed. So this McGloin character got hurt, and they had Connor Cook to go in there, and it just didn't happen. And also, Aqib Talib snatched the chain off of Crabtree, which is kind of funny, but you got to think. I think Talib is legitimately a psychopath. I think there's like that dude is just, there's something fucking wrong with him. Really. Now earlier, remember, he had during the offseason, he got like shithouse drunk in Texas, and like he was shot in the leg, and he was like, oh, I was so drunk, I don't know who shot me. It could have been me. It could have been someone else. I'm starting to think that, initially I thought he like accidentally shot himself, but let's be real. I think someone else shot him, because he's the kind of asshole that probably makes people want to fucking shoot him. They add a little liquor to that, add the whole Texas thing, and yeah, motherfucker might get shot. So I think Talib may have actually been shot by somebody at that nightclub in Texas, and not himself, which is, if you ever watched a guy, I watch from home, and I'm kind of like, someone's going to shoot that asshole. Like, someone's going to do a Billy Blanks Last Boy Scout fucking thing on him. They're going to drag him to the end zone and just fucking execute him. And it's going to be on TV, and we're going to probably have to build some kind of memorial or some shit, and there's going to be fucking terrible. But he would have probably deserved getting shot. Either way, the Chiefs beat the Chargers, because if they didn't, I'd probably explode into a cloud of angry emojis and profanity, because the Chargers lost to the motherfucking Browns. The punk-ass, shit-ass, fuck-ass Chargers lost to the motherfucking Browns. So if a team loses to the Chargers that's getting ready to take that division, that's a shame. But the Chiefs didn't lose, and they did take the division, and all is right in the universe with that being, with that happening. But the Chargers should be ashamed of themselves for losing to the Browns in Week 16. Look, this one, I'm gonna mention that shit all the way until the next season kicks off. The Chargers were the only win against, that the Browns had, and they didn't. It wasn't like the Browns were good; they just were not as bad. That's unacceptable. So, moving on to the Seahawks game. The Seahawks, they won a real nail biter against the Niners. So, I'm having a tough time putting faith into the Seahawks going to the playoffs. Right? They have simply sustained too many losses to be among the elite. Like, all their super elite players on defense, like Earl Thomas is an elite safety, and he's hurt. You know what I'm saying? Lockett is hurt. Both of them broken legs. It's those two players play a bigger role. Russell Wilson's basically out there by himself. Now, there's nothing to take away from their pass rush, linebackers and all the other shit they got going on out there. Richard Sherman is still a good team, but really a close one against the Niners. The Niners have won 2 games. They're fucking terrible. You should be kicking their ass. I expect an ass whooping when Seattle plays the Niners. I don't care if they play them in the fucking moon. They played them wherever San Francisco plays. I don't know where San Francisco plays anymore. They used to play in San Francisco, but apparently they play like 50, 70 miles south of San Francisco now, which is dumb. But that's the case. So the Santa Clarita, Los Alamitos, fucking Niners is whatever. But the Niners almost won. They lost by 2, and that's way too close. Now, I don't care what happens, though, as long as it takes the steam out of the sails of the 12s, right? Because let's be real, any fan base that gives themselves a collective nickname like the 12s, that's an obnoxious shitheel of a fan base. And Seattle has that. So fuck the 12s, and whatever helps humble you is I'm all for that. And the Packers beat the Lions, and they took the division, and let's be honest, we all saw that shit coming. We all saw it coming. Like, we wanted to believe that the Lions would hold on and get their first division win since before the reorg. But no, because when it comes down to it, when the postseason's looming, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers fucking show up, and they did, and they were just too much for the Lions. And hey, it's just what she wrote. Now, here's the thing: the Lions still make it. The Lions still make it because Washington lost, so the Lions still make it. But it would have been better for them to take the division, because that could have been like something they could have done. That's but you got to earn it. It's not given to you. The Packers are who they are because of how they play. So if you want to beat the Packers, you have to beat the Packers. Period. End of story. So talking about Leslie's predictions, right? And I killed it. I fucking killed it. I called 13 of the 16 games, which is mind-boggling. And I called a choke in DC because it was a choke. It was a choke job. Last-minute pick, game over. Choke job. And I called Landry fucking Jones having a great game. Let me tell you what, look. Dirt Diggler's Shitty Sports Show does not condone gambling. I've said it before and I'll say it again. But fuck, man, when I'm like this, when I'm hot, man, fucking do what you're going to do. You know what I'm saying? I assume, and the show assumes, no responsibility for any losses or repercussions for your unhealthy gambling addiction. But just saying, we're pretty good at this point. I think we got it. So just saying. Hey, look, just a guy behind a mic. All right, so the off-season begins for my Eagles. I mean, maybe I don't know, get some sad music in here for this, like some Hulk walking away shit from back in the day. But yeah, the season's over for the Birds, man. The season's over. They finished, with 7 wins. It just was not good enough, right? 7-9 is not good enough to make it. You can't get to the postseason like that. And let's be real, they were not complete enough to go anyway. But they lost so many close games. The Eagles lost so many close games. Not enough talent on the field to begin with. Then you start talking about the injuries, suspensions. We could probably blame a bunch of different shit, but let's be real, they just were not good enough. The Eagles were not good enough to make it to the postseason, and they didn't, which is great, because had they made it, they would just get their ass kicked tomorrow, and that would have just been bad news. But they didn't. So, I mean, right now what we have is we have the Howie Roseman show, where Howie Roseman is simply blaming Chip Kelly for sending away all the talent, which is a legitimate thing to say, because Chip Kelly did, in fact, send away all the fucking talent. Shady McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin, Avant, Mathis, the lineman. I mean, he let go of some really good talent and left the team bare because he thought his fucking scheme and tempo could overcome those things, but they didn't. So what it did was it just put the Eagles in a rebuilding mode, and maybe it sowed enough desperation in last year's draft for the Eagles to get ballsy and go for Wentz. Which, at the end of the day, Wentz was a phenomenal quarterback this year. He's still growing. He's still got some development to do as a rookie, but very, very promising. Now, it looks like Howie's not going to try to do the thing where they waste his years by having him throw to shit receivers. But we'll talk about like draft needs and other shit. And who they're going to, maybe I'll say mock drafts, but speculate as to who they should take and what round if available, where the priorities lie. But we know you need receivers, plural, cornerbacks, plural, and at least one solid running back because, Ryan Matthews, blew out a disc in his neck and he's done for a minute. So, there's some gaps. Now, the offensive line talent was actually pretty solid considering the amount of replacements and shifting that went on. The offensive line coach did a fantastic job for the Eagles. But Wentz was still doing too much escaping. So, but I mean, let's be real. You got some of the best pass rushers in the NFL in the NFC East. I mean, between the edge rushers in D.C., the edge rushers in New York, those guys are serious. Even Dallas will get pressure on you every once in a while. But those pass rushers in New York and in Washington, hey, those guys are legit. And they held their own for the most part without the presence of the best right tackle in football with Lane Johnson. So kudos to the young linemen and rookies who stepped up, and to the line coach for getting them prepped. It was promising to see that the line does have some depth. It could always use a little bit more. But like I said, we'll get into that. You also got to look at now, you're going to need to start grooming a kick and a punt returner. Because Sproles is done after next year. Sproles is going to hang it up. He's already said. Remember many podcasts ago where I was like, Sproles had to show up for ETA for the OTAs because he spent time with his family because he's a grown-ass man, and that's what the fuck you do was a grown-ass man. You spend time with your family. Well, he's feeling that tug. He wants to be with his family. He's made his money. He's played the game. So he's saying next year is his last year. And to have a talent like Sproles play for your team is great. I think he's a debatable Hall of Famer. We could talk about him later on in the show when I get the squad and I get the crew. But it's going to be a loss. So you're going to lose Sproles. You already lost Huff, right? Because Huff had the gun charge, and you had to send Huff away. And I think he ended up getting signed by Tampa on their practice squad. I don't know if he made it to the roster, not that it matters. The Eagles got rid of him because they didn't know if he was going to go to prison or not. But apparently that wasn't a big deal for Tampa. Honestly, I wish the best for Josh Huff. I don't have any issues with him. I wish he could have remained in the Eagles and became something. But he was a hell of a kick punt returner, and he was a loss when he got sent away. His shit is his situation is avoidable, but it's not the worst thing that's happened in the NFL. So let's talk about Doug Peterson. Speaking of the birds, right? So I had a conversation with somebody that I haven't spoken to in a long time, and he passed some very interesting information, right? So apparently, Doug Peterson didn't leave Kansas City because he was ready to become a head coach. Because if you look at his coaching body of work, he doesn't have a large, you wouldn't think that somebody with such little coaching experience would be in the running to become a head coach. But no, apparently Peterson got caught banging one of the female staffers, right? And Andy Reid got wind of it, and Andy's wife and Doug's wife are great friends, and Andy was absolutely disgusted. So he kind of sent them away because he was disgusted. He wanted nothing. He did not want him on his coaching staff anymore, and it's understandable, right? So you can shit on Andy Reid for his clock management and conservative play calling, but one thing is Andy Reid's got some integrity. He's actually a pretty stand-up guy. He's a good guy. Andy really is. He sticks with his players. He supports his coaches. Andy's a good guy. So not only, but I think that Andy didn't just send him away. I think he contacted Lori and Roseman and did Peterson a solid, because Peterson wasn't the Eagles' first or second choice, but he still ended up getting the job. And I think that Reid has something to do with that. So what you got to understand, ladies and gentlemen that listen, is the NFL is a big ass fraternity. These guys all talk to each other, these owners, these coaches. That's why there's a rotation. Like, you got the same 35 coaches that pop in and out of the NFL. They just go different places. Like, I'm sure we'll see Jeff Fisher somewhere, even though we shouldn't. It's weird, but that's how it works. So there's a lot of things that happen in the background that us peasants are not privy to. But here's the thing, right? So it's a rumor. Right, the Doug Peterson thing, it'd be wrong for me not to say that it's a rumor, but it's a rumor, but it does make sense, because there's no way somebody with such a small body of work, puts his name out to be a head coach. I think he was kicked out of Kansas City for having the relations with an intern or somebody. So yeah, that's unacceptable. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. So let's talk about the not ever division winners. Right, because interesting factoid, right? I saw a graphic, and it had every division winner since the reorg in 2002, right? And so you look at the AFC East, and it's like Patriots, Jets, Patriots, Dolphins, and then Patriots. And you're like, what the fuck, AFC East? Y'all are terrible. Right, then you look at the rest of the divisions, and you see a pretty good mix. Like the NFC East, the Eagles dominated for that, the McNabb, Andy Reid years. The Eagles dominated, but you still see the other three teams show up. You still see the Giants pop in a couple times. You see the Cowboys, and you see the Pigskins pop in there. The Pigskins didn't pop back in until last year and the year that they picked up RG3. That's when they won the division. But they are in there, right? So you look around and like the NFC South is just a fucking carousel, right? You look at the AFC South though, and it's like Peyton Manning's team, and then a couple other guys sneak in, and then it goes back to being this. But it's weird. But there's still 4 teams that have not won their division since the reorg, right? The Browns, the Bills, the Jaguars, and the Lions, right? The Lions have not won their division since the reorg. I said that earlier. Now here's the deal with the Browns, right? So we're gonna go over each team. The Browns. They're an expansion franchise, and they've been playing like an expansion franchise for 20 fucking years. But let's be real. In their division, they have the always competent Steelers. You have the sometimes competent Bengals. And you have the Ravens, who have been known to be pretty good every once in a while. So they're in a fairly competitive division. So it's going to be hard. And with their general dysfunction of never having shrugged off that feeling of being an expansion franchise, of being a facsimile of something else, they just haven't been able to compete. So I can kind of see them not winning the division, right? I can kind of see it. It's inexcusable. You should still have gotten one. I'm sure D would disagree, but hey, look, you should have figured the shit out. I mean, you almost did it once, but yeah, they haven't won the division. So I kind of get it. Now, the Bills, that AFC East division has been absolutely dominated by the Patriots. I mean, really, there's only 2 years that the Patriots haven't won that division. Only 2 years. So you got to be thinking to yourself, like, what kind of shit is going down in that division to where the 3 teams that are there can't make up against and win against the Patriots? I mean, you had the 1 year that the Dolphins won, you had the 1 year that the Jets won, but the Bills never figured it out. It really, the Bills have not figured it out. And it's kind of a shame, because you would have figured with the amount of talent that's gone through Buffalo that they would have figured some shit out by now, but they just have really bad coaching, bad ownership, mostly really bad ownership in Buffalo that undercuts any progress anywhere else. But yeah, the Bills haven't won the division, and it's inexcusable. It really is. But that's what terrible franchises do. They don't win, right? Because we're going to talk about another terrible franchise of the Jaguars. The Jaguars are in a division that's pretty bad. If you get rid of the presence of Peyton Manning, the AFC South has been trashed since its inception. Like, let's be real. There has been no one of note to grace the AFC South other than that Peyton Manning team. All the talent was there. They stomped on their division for the entire time Peyton Manning was there. And once he left, Unluck had his 1 year, but it's been bouncing back and forth. But the team that never won is the Jaguars. So you talk about a division that as a division is a doormat in the AFC South, and within that doormat division, the Jaguars are the doormat team. So what's odd is that the second year of their existence, they had pulled in all these free agents. They had Tom Coughlin as their head coach, and they went to the AFC Championship. So the Jaguars at one point were actually a competent team. But then, they had all that borrowed talent, and the talent got old and left, and they went back to being shit, and they've been shit since. So, then Peyton Manning comes along and starts kicking everybody's ass. But, how many fucking number 1 picks do you need to figure this shit out? So I don't know what to do with the Jaguars. They're just a bad team in a bad division. They're the worst team in a bad division. In the worst division. They're the worst team in the worst division. But they're not the worst team in the NFL, because that honor goes to the Browns. But then there's the Lions, who are snake bitten. Pretty much. The Lions are snake bitten. You kind of just, like, they've put some immensely talented teams out, and they've never had anything to show for it. Then again, Green Bay takes that division for the most part. Like, dude, sometimes Chicago shows up, sometimes Minnesota. But let's be real. When you think NFC North, you don't think of those teams so much. You think of Green Bay, because Green Bay is the standard for those guys. And Green Bay is the thorn in the Lions' side, just like this year. If they win Week 17, they take the division. But who do they got to play? They got to play Green Bay. And Green Bay crept upon them and did that thing Green Bay did, and Green Bay took it. So the Lions go into the playoffs again, which is great, but they don't take the division. So the Lions are the 4th team that have yet to win their division. Now, out of all those teams, the only one that's been to the Super Bowl is the Bills. And we know about that team because they went like 4 times consecutively and lost all 4. With Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas and Bruce Smith and a bunch of other really, really great Hall of Fame players that were elite, but they just ran into some really, really good NFC teams at the time with the Niners and the Giants and the Pigskins, and it was just not a Cowboys. You know, it was Jay just got bust off. It was not a good time. But all right, so yeah, man, look, 4 teams. If you're a fan of those teams and you don't believe me, fucking check it out. Right, hit up the Facebook page I set up for the show. There's a graphic up there of who's won the division, and it lays it out. Your teams have not won the division, but if you think I'm wrong, by all means, Dirt Diggler 2823 at gmail.com. Hit me up. Let me know. We'll talk about it. I don't care. So, all right, getting into the fun part, right? The uneducated predictions for Wild Card Weekend. Man. All right, so got a couple games in here that are really difficult to call. Not gonna lie. All right, so the Raiders and the Texans. If they get McGloin back, then the Raiders have a chance. Thing is, I don't know the status of McGloin. Right, the Texans do have a solid defense, to my surprise. They're offensively inept though, but the Raiders are also kind of defensively inept. Outside of Khalil Mack, they're not a very good defensive team, so you can put up points on them. If the Raiders are able to move the ball, they have a chance to win. But I don't think they will. So I have the Raiders scoring 17 and the Texans 21. I can't believe I'm saying this. I think the Texans are going to beat this Raiders team. I think the loss of the two top quarterbacks is just too much to. I mean, when you're digging in the crates for a third-string quarterback in the NFL, you're not going to find a lot of talent. Sorry, you're not gonna. It is what it is. So the Lions in Seattle. 21-22 Seattle. This is one of those games that I really can't call because Seattle is so depleted. And Stafford, for the most part, and the Lions have been really clutch this year with coming through. I mean, Green Bay is a lot of people's kryptonite late in the season, so I can't really beat up on the Lions for that. But the Lions can win that game. I don't know because I don't know which Seattle team is going to show up. Like I said, they've lost some talent in Seattle due to injuries. And I just don't know. I mean, close games against the Niners, dropping games against other shitty, weak-ass teams. I don't know what I'm looking at when I look at Seattle. I expected them to round into form late in the season, and they never really did. So I kind of feel like they're kind of stumbling into the playoffs. But we'll see what happens when the games are played. You know what I'm saying? But I said the Lions have a chance. I'm just saying, like, that game go either way. It'll be close, though. That's what I'm saying. It'll be close. So then we have the Dolphins and the Steelers at Pittsburgh, and I have the Dolphins scoring 12 and the Steelers scoring 30. Why? Because the Dolphins aren't that good. Now, the only concern for me, if I'm a Steelers fan, is the fact that the Dolphins do have a rather solid defensive line, and the Steelers do not have a really solid offensive line, right? As much of a moose as Roethlisberger is, and Ndamukong Suh is a big, dirty motherfucker, and I can see him taking Roethlisberger down. He is not Terrell Suggs. You're not shrugging off a hit from Suh. Ndamukong Suh will take Roethlisberger down if he gets there. So the paramount thing's got to be controlling that line of scrimmage for that offensive line. If the Steelers can neutralize that defensive front that the Dolphins have, then it's a cakewalk for them. Period. They're too explosive. You know, Brown, Bell, and Roethlisberger, that's too many points. But if they're getting a Roethlisberger, then it definitely changes the game. Now, Bell could make some folks, you know, they're aggressive, so Bell could probably make some things happen with his patience and making folks over pursue, but that has to be seen. Either way, I don't think the Dolphins have enough offense. So 12-30 in favor of the Steelers for this one. Now the Giants and Packers. Giants 24, Packers 25 in Lambeau. Too close to call. Why is it too close to call? Because you have two of the most talented, clutch postseason quarterbacks in the NFL playing together, playing against each other in the wild card round. Right, I would have preferred to have shifted this around and have like Seattle play the Packers and the Giants play the Lions or some shit. But that's not what happened though, right? So we have the Giants in Lambeau, and as we know, Eli can win on the road in the playoffs because he's done it a couple times and he won the big dance after doing all that shit. So, but you can't discount the Packers. So this is one of those immovable objects, unstoppable force type deals. Ultimately, it'll be close. I think it's going to come down. It always does. It's going to come down to whose defense can force the most mistakes, right? You want to say that Eli throws the most picks, but let's be real. This is playoff Eli we're talking about now. So maybe that Giants secondary can make Rodgers fuck up. If they can get to Rodgers, then the Giants have a good chance to win this game. I mean, let's be real. I don't know if their secondary is good enough to keep up with the Giants receiving core, but we'll find out because the Giants offensive line is kind of suspect. This is going to be a good game. Look, if there's one game you watch this weekend, it's this one. This is the game you watch this weekend, and I'll get into that during my hot take. But let me tell you, it's I don't know, man. I just wish my Eagles were there, but I'm glad they're not, kind of, sort of. So let's get into the beer of the week, right? Beer of the week. I saw this new beer, Yuengliung India Pale Lager. This just sounds tragic because it's both a Yuengliung and an India Pale Lager, which I didn't even know was a fucking thing until I saw this shit. So I literally just cracked it open. I haven't had any of this yet, and I'm going to taste it right now. Hold on. Oh my God, that is terrible. Oh, God, it's like all the worst qualities of an IPA and all the worst qualities of a lager together. Yuengliung. I bought this beer because I thought it would be shit, and it is shit. But can you drink it during the game? If you hate yourself, yeah, fucking have at it, man. Like, all right, this would be some shit you like marinate your steaks in if you want to give them a little kick. You know what I'm saying? You want to give them a little bit of a skunk flavor to your steaks for some reason. But this is not a delicious beer. It's kind of shitty. Hold on, let me try it again, just because you gotta, hey, smell this. Yeah, that is shit. Oh my God, that's terrible. Oh, I did that twice. Oh, I got 5 more of these. Fucking somebody help me. Either way, not a good beer. Don't recommend it for the game. So if someone offers you a Yuengliung IPL, they're not your friend. Just understand it. Dirty says they're not your friend, so they're not your friend. Dirty knows best. So let's get into the hot take of the week. Dirty's hot take of the week, right? So, oh shit, I'm hitting my mic. I'm all over the place, man. This beer's got me like angry at myself. It's so bad. But all right. So the winner of the Giants-Packers game is our only hope for the NFC. The Cowboys are frauds, right? So you can't count on them to do shit. The Steelers are the only team in the AFC that I can see derailing the Pats and denying them a Super Bowl win. But let's be real, right? So who wants to hear that fan base in Pittsburgh with 7 fucking rings? I know I don't. I don't want to hear Stairway to 7. That's lame, but that's what's happening, So with that being said, look, root for the Giants and or the Packers, because if they don't win, we all lose. We all lose. And also, if worst case scenario happens, and like this is, if the doomsday scenario happens, and the Cowboys play the Patriots in the Super Bowl, I'm gonna have to root for the Pats. I am. You know why? Because as obnoxious as Pats fans are, they're nowhere near as temperamental and obnoxious and fucking punk ass as Cowboys fans are. So, and it honestly, I don't know if it's the beer. Oh God. I don't know if it's the beer of me saying that, but yeah, I have to root for the Pats if they play the Cowboys in the Super Bowl, and it hurts my soul, but that's the truth, I guess. Oh my God. Oh, hold on, you got another beer here, right? Another beer I have is the Heavy Seas Double Cannon. It's a double IPA. Hold on. That beer does not taste like shit, and I'll review that later, some other time. But it definitely helps my spirits to drink that beer, not this other one. So, hey, look, that's it, man. That's it for the show. And as usual, look, I'm on iTunes, Stitcher, Mixcloud, SoundCloud, YouTube. If you want to help, hit me up on Patreon. Find me on Patreon and donate, man. You get some access to some unreleased content, you know what I'm saying? Some raw show audio that you get to hear. And I would appreciate the support, you know what I'm saying, if you guys donate at Patreon. Also, go on Facebook, hit up the page. I'm on Twitter, too. Dirt's Diggler. Find me, right? I'll tweet some shit sometimes every once in a while, even though I don't really tweet because 140 characters are just not enough for me. But, yeah, man, that's what it is. Hit me up, right? And as always, I'm always open for, suggestions. Contact me. You can hit me up on the page on Facebook, Dirk Diggler Shitty Sports Show, right? But the I in shitty is a 1 because Facebook would not let me use the word shitty in the title for the page. I don't know why, but they wouldn't. So like I said, hit me up. I answer messages fairly quickly. Post something. It's whatever. Contact me. There's the rest of the crew. They're on there as well. So hit us up. And as always, look, dirtdiggler2823@gmail.com. So, hey, don't just visit. Like, share it out. Like, tell a friend. Tell your cousin. Tell your auntie. Tell your mom. Tell your dad. Whatever. Help me get out there. Help us get some more exposure, man, because I only got like 50 folks that I talk to on Facebook. Some of y'all got like 500, 600, 700 people. Share my shit out. I'd appreciate it. We'd all appreciate it. Getting that exposure. Maybe this becomes something bigger if we get that exposure. Hey, but look, right now, I'm having a great time. So, hey, as usual, it's been real, it's been fun, and it's been real fun. Dirt Diggler out.